Okay, so picture this. One of the most important energy arteries on the entire planet, the Strait of Hormuz, is declared open again after some kind of crisis. Sounds like good news, right? But here's the problem. Nobody's using it. Today, we're going to dig into why simply reopening a choke point like this just isn't enough. And it's all based on a really fascinating analysis of this exact scenario. And this question right here, this gets to the absolute heart of the matter. It's like clearing a massive accident off a highway, and then no cars get on it. It makes no sense. That's the paradox we're seeing in the Persian Gulf. So really, why are all the ships staying away? Well, this number is why. At times, even when the strait is officially open for business, maritime traffic has collapsed by a staggering 90%. I mean, let's be clear, that's not a slowdown, that's a full-blown system grinding to a halt. So this brings us to our first big point, this huge, gaping disconnect between what officials are saying and what the market is actually doing on the water. And this illustrates that disconnect perfectly. On the one hand, you get these official announcements that, yep, the waterway is open. But on the other hand, you have the cold, hard data, and it shows a catastrophic drop from over 120 vessels a day, in some cases down to just 3. You have entire fleets just choosing to sit idle rather than risk making that trip. And look, this isn't some new theoretical problem. We actually have a very recent real-world example that serves as a pretty stark warning for us: the crisis in the Red Sea. Yeah, the whole situation in the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, that was the blueprint. I mean, even years after efforts to stabilize things, traffic through the Suez Canal is still way down. They've tried discounts on fees, they've tried security patrols, but none of it has been enough to get traffic back to what it was before the crisis. And this quote from the analysis we're looking at is absolutely key. The real goal of the disruption wasn't to shut the corridor down forever. It was just to make it unreliable. Just planting that seed of doubt, that alone was enough to permanently rewire global shipping. So you see, the crucial point here isn't about physical blockades. The real choke point, the one that truly matters, is something you can't even see. It's the total collapse of trust and financial confidence. So let's talk about the main driver behind all of this: war risk insurance. This is the financial tool that actually decides whether a ship sails or just stays in port. When the insurance companies either refuse to offer this coverage or they make the premiums just astronomically high, they can shut down a shipping lane more effectively than any Navy ever could. And these are the real-world consequences, the dominoes that fall. Premiums just skyrocket, making it too expensive to even consider the trip. The world's biggest shipping companies, they just start refusing to take cargo through the strait. And this isn't temporary. Companies are literally rewriting their long-term contracts to avoid the region completely. The system itself is rerouting away from the risk. And that collapse in confidence doesn't just stop a few ships. No, it kicks off a massive structural shift in how goods and energy move all around the planet. Suddenly, the long way around Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, becomes the new normal for a lot of trade between Asia and Europe. And just look at this chart. This is not a small detour we're talking about. You're adding 10 to 14 days and thousands of extra miles to every single journey. This isn't a temporary patch. It's the new design of the network. And this sets off a chain reaction that's incredibly hard, maybe even impossible to reverse. First, the perception of risk changes. That leads to permanent shifts in trade routes. Then, big energy buyers in Europe and Asia start scrambling to find other, more reliable suppliers. And finally, the money follows. Billions get invested in new pipelines, new ports, all supporting these safer routes. And what you end up with is this: a fragmentation of global energy. Europe pivots even faster to sources in the Atlantic and Africa. Asia goes all in on U.S. liquefied natural gas and other regional suppliers. Now, the Gulf's dominance isn't gone, but as you can see, it's been structurally and permanently watered down. So, what does all this rerouting and diversifying really mean for the bigger picture? Well, it points to a fundamental shift in how we think about globalization itself. It's a move away from efficiency and towards resilience. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. The old world, the one we've been living in for decades, was all built for maximum efficiency. It just assumed trade would be smooth and frictionless. The new world? It's being rebuilt for resilience, for redundancy. It operates on the assumption that instability is now a constant feature that you just have to manage. Of course, this new paradigm comes with a price tag. It means permanently higher costs for pretty much everything that moves on a ship. It means more wild swings in the market. And from a geopolitical view, it means choke points like Hormuz are no longer just passive spots on a map, they're now active weapons of power. So if there's one thing to take away from all of this, the single most important point is this. Making a big announcement that the Strait of Hormuz is open doesn't actually solve the problem. The data is crystal clear. The traffic doesn't come back, the costs don't go down, and the behavior doesn't change. So let's end on this really powerful final thought from the source material. A choke point is a fault line. Once that has shifted, it does not simply move back. The world doesn't just snap back to the way it was before. It has been permanently remapped.